He's staring right at me.
Maybe. Or he's staring at the woman who's staring at him.
This is where all the goodwill which was built up by understated performances, tense atmosphere, and a simplistic but gripping narrative begins to sour. Francis is an awful husband, to the point where I both don't know why Julia married him and don't believe in him as a character. He is cartoonishly indifferent to his wife's suffering, imagined or not. She doesn't know what to do with herself now that she's here, and is alone and exposed every second he's away. Francis is aware of the spider's infamy in town, but is simultaneously unaware of how severely his presence affects an already disoriented Julia. Couple with that a police force which is unwilling to or incapable of seeing Julia as a potential victim of a heinous crime, instead opting to treat her and her alleged stalker as equals in the matter, and you realize that the plausibility this plot tried to build on was more structurally compromised than a house of cards in a wind tunnel. Watcher never actually earns the viewer's suspension of disbelief. The dismissive and egalitarian manner with which Francis and the cops treat Julia's mental anguish is a funhouse mirror reflection of what happens in the real world, and is not conducive to getting the audience invested in Francis as a character or the story in general. The opening moments of the film set the tone nicely. A local cab driver delivers Julia an inappropriate compliment. Francis doesn't take kindly to the remark, and Julia has no idea what was said. From the get-go, the film establishes an air of vulnerability as our main character is unable to even perceive what people around her are saying, and their intentions ring unsavory. She is at risk, in more ways than one, and her husband, the one person who should be keenly aware of how jarring this experience must be for Julia, is repeatedly portrayed as negligent and ineffective. I don't believe he's a human being. I don't believe Julia could realistically be abandoned in so many ways throughout the film, and I don't believe the writers even believe that. To step outside the story for a moment, this situation is all too familiar for women across the planet. Feeling unsafe and preyed upon and cast aside are all symptoms of a savage, unforgiving world. One in which evil and brute force have just as good a chance as compassion and justice, and where women and children are consistently the victims of these malevolent acts. That is not where I take issue with Watcher, because it lays the groundwork for a true-to-life tragedy, a tale in which a serial killer's victims' cries for help are not heard by those closest to her, resulting in a fatal catastrophe. This story would have been so much more powerful if it had ended here, how the plot was leading us to believe it could and would end, and as a basic understanding of human biology would support.